Hello, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Emmy the Cat Lady, and you join me back here in Nuka-World, as you can probably guess by the glowing blue plants and the Nuka-Cola vending machine. So we're inside the Welcome Centre at the Safari Adventure part of the park. Today we're going to talk about another one of Nuka-Cola's scientist employees that had a really bad time just about the times where the bombs were falling. So we're going to talk about Dr. Hein. So he's mentioned to you when you do the quest for the Safari Adventure Park, and he was a colleague of Dr. McDermott, who's the only scientist in this part of the park that survived the bombs and became a ghoul, or the wrinkly man as Sito calls him. So Safari Adventure was a zoo park that was focused on wildlife, and they had a collection of animals exhibits that included bears, a primate house and a reptile house. There was also Cappy's tree house and the Welcome Centre, which is where we are right now. The reptile house held a petting zoo, but they had to apparently stop bringing the death adders and black mambas there to let the children touch them because they were just a tiny bit unsafe. So, you know, ethics and health and safety weren't really a concern for these people, understandably. And basically, at that point in time, there was a new roller coaster under construction in this park that was called the Angry Anaconda, which is a fitting name for a roller coaster, being a massive danger noodle, if you will. So, the Welcome Centre does hide a dark secret down here, though, which is the cloning facility, which appears to be how they get the animals for their exhibits. So instead of, you know, buying them or trading with them from other zoos and things, which is what's typically done, or, you know, animals that have been bred by a different zoo and then they are purchased by a separate zoo and transferred there and things like that. No, we're just going to make our own through science. So we've got a few different terminal entries and recordings and things to look at. So this is Dr. Hein's terminal here. So this is the kind of science bit, obviously a cage for keeping specimens in. Then Dr. McDermott's terminal's that one over there. And there's obviously lots of equipment and stuff dotted about. So let's have a look at Dr. Hein's journal. So his first entry, which is New Year's Day 2077. I think I drank a little too much last night when ringing in the new year. Woke up right next to the Nuka-Gen Replicator's main terminal and a program was running. It looks like I was trying to sequence an anteater with 16 giraffe-type legs, scales, 4 eyes and 2 tails. Amusingly, even in my inebriated state, I've created a fairly viable specimen sequence that could possibly work. I don't think the animal would live very long, but my scientific curiosity says I should give it a try. I'll have to consult Dr. McDermott. So, yeah, he got drunk and started piecing together some random animal parts to create something that sounds absolutely horrendous. And he's like, yeah, the animal probably wouldn't live very long, which means it would probably have a short and painful existence, but scientific curiosity says that he should try it out and see what happens. Yeah, questions need to be asked there. So we do need to mention a group called AFAD, the Animal Friends and Defenders, which are an organisation pre-war that were fighting for animal rights and the environment and all that kind of stuff. So follow its very own version of PETA. Just to be clear, a lot of people kind of assume that I'm on side with PETA because of my career as a vet and my knowledge and experience as an advocate for animal welfare. I don't. They're hypocrites. And they push dangerous misinformation and use terrible propaganda to push their message. I'll always advocate for animal welfare, but not the way they think about it, because they don't actually practice what they preach. I have a lot of issues with PETA. So these people are kind of a vigilante activist group, I guess, is the way to describe them. So they wear masks, they wear animal masks, and they use code names to preserve their anonymity and hide their identities. And they've been targeting the Safari Adventure Park and the animals kept there. So there's been several incidents of vandalism and security breaches and the like. So if we look here, this is the 27th of February. Those damn AFAD idiots are at it again. It's only been a few weeks since they vandalised my Corvega by filling it with manure. Lovely. It's going to take a lot to get that out the inside of a car. And the security department assured me that would be the last time they were allowed anywhere near Nuka-World. However, I arrived at the facility today to find "Stop the Torture" painted across the security door. I don't know what these morons think, why these morons think we're torturing animals. Anything that we need to dispose of in the laboratory is dealt with in a swift and rather humane manner. So, they're worried about the torture, and he's like, no, we euthanise them quickly and painlessly, and everything's done humanely. But the previous entry kind of contradicts with that he's just kind of getting drunk while being in charge of a animal DNA replicator machine. That's not really, it's doesn't quite fit, but they obviously have managed to cause some trouble for this guy, and they have broken into the centre a couple of times as well. So there's another entry that's a few months later, so that's the 2nd of June 2077. And this one is, interesting, again, highlighting that everything's humane and done properly and it's all good. So thanks to Dr. McDermott's help, I have been able to isolate the segmentation issues I've been having with PB041. The polar bears on the last segment kept coming out of the Nuka-Gen replicator inside out and then exploding. I'll repeat that. Inside out and then exploding. I assume this was due to an incorrect sequence, but I've never seen such a violent reaction from a specimen before. It was actually a rather spectacular result, strictly from a scientific point of view. I'm sure it was spectacular. It would definitely have been a spectacle, but, again, I'm a vet. I'm not squeamish. I've dealt with my fair share of blood, guts, manure, dead things, traumatic injuries, but this just sounds horrific. Like, they're exploding and I don't know why. So, maybe if I'd have a little bit of a point, that's entirely possible. I don't know what you guys think, but yeah. And essentially they took issue with the new roller coaster that was being built. So AFAD, they were concerned about the impact of the noise of it and on the animals that were in the park. Both the construction of the roller coaster, construction work is noisy, everybody knows that, but also the operation of the roller coaster would be very loud. Again, anyone that's ever been to a theme park where there's a roller coaster can attest that it tends to be, as it's rattling around on the track, it's loud. There's usually music being played as well, and all the flashing lights and things like that, so potentially could be quite distressing for animals nearby. And that's what they were worried about, was that having that so close to the animals' enclosures could be stressful for them. And there is a real life situation that happened quite recently here in Scotland, actually. So last year in Edinburgh, so our typical time for fireworks in the UK is the 5th of November, Guy Fawkes Night, where we celebrate a man going into the Houses of Parliament with the intent to blow it up and getting caught. Some say he was the last person to go into the Houses of Parliament with honest intentions, but, the whole thing is that that's celebrated with fireworks and bonfires and things at the beginning of November. And most large cities or council areas will organise large public displays that people can go to enjoy the fireworks, although some people do buy fireworks to use at home, which I don't personally agree with. Because the harm it can cause to animals. And again, my experience as a vet, where we're spending pretty much the entirety of October giving people tools and giving people things to help their dogs cope with the fireworks season, and then it happens again at New Year. And what happened in Edinburgh Zoo last year was that 2 red pandas, an adult and a youngster, actually died due to stress of the fireworks being set off nearby, because Edinburgh Zoo is actually quite close to the city centre. And yeah, it's really quite sad that they actually lost two animals because of the loud fireworks, because they're loud, they're noisy, and remember that most animals have more sensitive hearing than humans do, so these loud bangs and the whistling, it probably is a lot more distressing for them and a lot more overwhelming for them, even, and we know that fireworks and things can be a lot for some people to cope with, people that have PTSD, people that do have sensitivity to sounds and things like that. So, again, they're maybe not going about it in the right way, these activists, but they're not entirely wrong as far as I can see. But let's hear from them themselves, and I'm pretty sure I should have this holotape on me. There we go. So yeah, we've got two holotapes from AFAD, so let's listen to their manifesto first.
We, the members of AFAD, have an important message for those...
Psst! Chipmunk! Tell them what our name means.
What are you doing? I have the thing running right now.
Don't just say AFAD. Tell them what it stands for.
I'm trying to do something serious here, Rabbit, and I already have the recording started.
We'll take this out of the recording later. Just tell them.
Fine. We, the members of the Animal Friends and Defenders, have an important message to those who are causing the destruction of the environment. We will not stand idly by and watch our animal brothers and sisters get hunted to extinction. We will take action. We will not remain complacent while corporations abuse our animal brothers and sisters in the name of so-called science. We will take action. We will not turn our backs as...
Oh, don't forget the part about slaughtering the animals needlessly for food.
You know I'm recording, right? You see that red light, yeah?
I'm sorry, Chipmunk. I was just trying to,
Just toss that tape and we'll try again. And when we're done, don't throw out the good tape and keep the bad one like last time.
Yeah, so they don't sound like the most organised bunch, and from the voices, it's not always easy to tell, but it does sound like they're relatively young, so potentially, teenagers, sort of high school students or early university students, something like that, early college students could be. But yeah, they're not the best organised, but then we have this tape, so the interrogation. So this is them interrogating Dr. Hein.
Please, I don't know what you people want from me.
Stop playing innocent, Dr. Hein. We know what's going on in that laboratory of yours.
Yeah, Hein. We know what's going on down there.
Are you going to shut up and let me do this, Rabbit?
Sorry, Mike. I just want to scare the guy.
For God's sakes, Rabbit. You're supposed to use our code names.
Both of you shut up. Now look, Dr. Hein. We know Brad Burton has you performing cloning experiments on the animals you locked up in that torture chamber you call a lab.
I can assure you, we treat all of our specimens with the utmost respect. There's really no reason to keep me here against my will.
Oh, that's where you're wrong, Dr. Hein. We brought you to the angry Anaconda construction site for a very specific reason. As a supposed man of science, how can you be so stupid to allow Brad Burton to build this thing so close to where you're keeping the animals? Do you have any idea the lasting damage it'll do to them? Well, do you?
Look, why don't you just untie me and then let me head back to the laboratory? I'll talk to Mr. Brad Burton, and I'm sure we can all have this misunderstanding cleared up in no time.
Ah, yeah, nice try, Hein. But you aren't going anywhere.
Hey, Mike, Ingrid, something's going on outside.
What is it, Rabbit?
I don't know. People running around everywhere. Maybe looking for us. Maybe not. Looks pretty crazy.
All right. Rabbit, stay with Dr. Hein. Robin, let's walk the perimeter of the place with Mouse and see what the hell is going on.
There we go. So, yeah, they had kidnapped Dr. Hein and were questioning him about everything that he's been doing. Okay, so let's have a look at these last two terminals before we head off to find out where Dr. Hein actually went. So we've got one on the 19th of September, which is kind of not related. It kind of mentions Project Cobalt, so not the most relevant thing, but he's been looking for a budget increase and it's been denied because everything's been diverted to Project Cobalt, which he doesn't know what that is. But, you know, he says he needs it for all the animals that they have to be able to provide their environmental requirements and their food and all the rest of it, but nobody's telling him anything about what's going on, so he's like, this better be important, because it's causing trouble for his department. And then we get to the 23rd of October 2077. I think we all know the significance of that date by now. Oh, hang on, click the wrong one. Oh, back. This one. Thank you. So it's about 1 AM, so obviously just after midnight from the 22nd into the 23rd. Just received a strange message via phone that I'm needed at the Angry Anaconda construction site to assist with an escaped animal that's been injured. I swear those security guys need to be more careful with their specimens. Last time this happened, not only did one of the escaped buffalo end up with a broken leg, but the other died when security had the wrong dosage in the tranquilizer darts. I'll report my findings in the next entry. Except there isn't a next entry. So he got this call, there's an animal that's escaped and it's been injured, you need to come and help. So, you know, if you're responsible for animals, somebody has to be on call 24/7 in case something happens. It's kind of part of the deal if you're going to take responsibility for animals in any particular capacity. So the other thing that I thought was worth pointing out just before we leave this place is that basically when this happened, they left a ransom note, and they interrogated them, and they also triggered a security lockdown. So that information can be found on this employees only terminal, which is what opens the door that leads to the lab. So we've got the lab status is code Grizzly. So let's look at the security levels first because it's kind of funny. So because of the security breaches in Safari Adventure, they've redefined the security levels. So code Chinchilla means everything's fine, all good, cute and fluffy, because chinchillas, if you've never seen a chinchilla before, they're so cute and so fluffy. They've got the softest fur of any living animal I've ever encountered, because they have about 60 hairs per follicle, while for example we have an average of 1 hair, sometimes 2 per follicle. So they've got this really dense, really soft fur. They're freaking adorable. So, you know, they're good. And then you've got orangutan, which is light security protocols. Dingo means medium, and grizzly means full. Now I get that because grizzly bears are definitely dangerous and intimidating. But I think it's funny that dingoes are apparently more severe than orangutans. I would have maybe put that the other way around. I don't know. I've never encountered any of these species in my time, but yeah, it's kind of a funny one. But that triggered a code Grizzly, which means it's in full lockdown and access can only be by Dr. Hein, Dr. McDermott or Mr. Bradburton. Will be met with lethal force and you need to contact the security office. And this also caused them to tell all staff not to go near the Angry Anaconda, which is where Dr. Hein was. But the AFAD people sent this note. Attention, Mr. Bradburton or one of his lackeys. We have tried doing this the nice way and you haven't played along. You even went so far as to ban us from your parks. Well, sir, this is a free country despite what you corporate fat cats think. AFAD is going to show you you don't have the control you thought your money buys you. We have your top scientist, Dr. Hein, held hostage right where you plan to build your precious Angry Anaconda. Come alone and we can discuss the terms of his release. Bring the police and you lose your star employee. Make the right choice, Mr. Bradburton. So, yeah, so, you know, they've stepped up their game. They're not just filling cars with manure anymore. We're actually, you know, kidnapping people and taking them hostage. Okie dokie, so here we are at the Angry Anaconda. Obviously, very much unfinished roller coaster, and nature is beginning to reclaim the space. So it's all set up. It was obviously still under construction at the time when the bombs fell, so there's obviously trailers. Now this one, it is locked when you come here. Most of these are actually locked up. There it is, here we are. Okay, so yep, this is where you find the interrogation holotape as well, and you can also find his password, which is what lets you get into the lab. So security, they initiated a lockdown and told everyone to stay away from the angry Anaconda. Whether they knew that Dr. Hein had been kidnapped and was here, or whether they didn't know and they inadvertently left him to his fate, it's impossible to say. And then obviously about 8 hours or so after he got that phone call, the fake injured animal story, is when the bombs fell. So everyone ended up dead. So this is Dr. McDermott's skeleton here. So he was locked in here, and then there's a few skeletons dotted about. So it's a fair bet that this person was one of the AFAD people, because they heard the bombs falling and they came running outside because people were running about. Somebody's spine, and some cotton candy bites, and a skull there. So you can safely assume that at least some of these other skeletons are probably belong to the animal rights activists that caused all this, and then poor Dr. Hein was left here to die alone and forgotten about. And his colleague Dr. McDermott, who did survive the bombs, didn't even know that he was here, and still close by. So yet another tragic story where somebody died alone and scared, probably not knowing what was going to happen to them. Potentially not knowing what was happening outside. He might not have even realised that, everything, he got stuck there because, the nukes had come and everybody else was dead. He might not have had any idea of exactly what was going on, which is kind of a shame. But given the devastation that happened at that time, if he hadn't been locked up in here, he probably would have still suffered the same fate. And while the AFAD, you could just write them off as these extreme activists, but the use and abuse of the Nuka-Gen replicator does make me think they might have had a bit of a point, in terms of, what these animals that they were creating were experiencing and that kind of a thing. But I say there's, if you have issues with stuff like that, there's ways of handling it, and then there's, actually breaking the law and things, which doesn't always help your case when it comes to stuff like that. But it's bit of a sad one, and I definitely don't think the animals were that well cared for. The fact that he got drunk and just started plugging things into the replicator on New Year's Eve, kind of like driving and being operating heavy machinery. Maybe we don't drink and genetically sequence absolutely terrifying abomination animals. That's maybe not the best thing to do with your time, but that's the kind of tragic story of Dr. Hein and how he ended up locked up in a trailer, forgotten about for a couple of 100 years, all because of some angry animal rights activists that may or may not have had a point about what they were objecting to. So hopefully you find that story a little bit interesting. I know if you've done this DLC, you've probably encountered the story about Dr. McDermott and, the wrinkly man that gave Sito the holotape and things that puts you on the path, and then you find his password. But I think looking at all the notes and things around it kind of tells us the story of exactly what happened to him and why, and the state of things in the park just before the bombs fell. So hopefully you find that interesting. Any thoughts, any comments, let me know down below, and subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll be back soon with some more fun and interesting Fallout lore. See you later. Bye.